Welcome, and thank you for joining us for Contemporary Art Taos 2020, the Artist Interview Series. I'm Nicole, the Curator of Exhibitions and Collections here at the Harwood Museum of Art. This series consists of short interviews between myself and the artist of this exhibition, and they will take place twice a month for the duration of the show. Joining us today, we're very lucky to have the great Brian Shields. Hello, Brian, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us. So let's talk about this beautiful work behind me, Spring, and the rest of your impressive art practice. The energy in your work is so palpable. It feels as if the movement that's evidenced in the final result comes from a process that's very full body, very physical, almost aggressive. Is that true? Can you tell us a little bit about that process?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for connecting with that. Yeah, I do. I think of energy as being my main medium. It's what I'm really working with throughout all my work. I'm really trying to. I'm getting into the work through the energy it creates, and so the more energy I create, the more painting I do, the more intense it gets, and that intensity of energy is what I really feed on, and what my work comes out of.
I think that's very visible when you experience the painting, especially when you sort of get up close and walk through those motions. You can feel that full body range of movement. That's part of the creation. So apart from your work as an artist, you're also an environmental advocate, specifically for the waters of New Mexico. Can you tell us about your life as an activist?
Yeah, well, that came about as a kind of a natural process from all of my different experiences. I started off really as a social justice activist in New York City. And then I developed from the civil rights movement. Then there was the anti-war movement, and then which was really the anti-Vietnam movement. And then eventually I ended up really focusing on the environment and trying to protect the environment. And that was in the late 90s, 80s, and it was really when the environmental movement was still in its very much of its formation. And I was really interested in the water. I was, of course, interested in wilderness and the sort of wonderful environment that we have here. But it was really water that connected the community and the environment together. And that's what really interested me. So I, together with a whole bunch of different people, including my wife, started Amigos Bravos, and we became a statewide organization to protect the rivers of New Mexico, and we grew, and the 90s were a good time for us when there was a lot more attention being given to the environment at that time. And we just created this organization that's still going on now. It's, it's doing great work, just fantastic work. So
very impressive. So looking a little deeper into the subject matter of your work, I definitely, in researching you and looking at your entire body, thought a lot about some of the philosophers who were working around the sublime, specifically Immanuel Kant, who wrote when he was considering really the 18th, 17th century gardens of England and Europe and Versailles, about the tension that always exists when you're representing nature between man controlling and manipulating nature, and the essential characteristics of nature as unpredictable, as ephemera, as constantly changing. Where do you find yourself between that tension as an artist that's depicting nature?
Well, I'm definitely of the mindset that certainly we cannot control nature. I mean, that's been tried and it's failed over and over again. And actually, we're dealing with the consequences of trying to control nature to this day. And so I'm really not interested in that side of nature at all. The side that I am very interested in with regards to nature is the energy that it has and the diversity that it creates and the unpredictability of it, and both the sublime, as you say, but also, you know, as manifested in beauty and wonder, but also in the real. Well, I would look at what's going on now in nature with the big storms that are happening, you know, and all of that. It's all part of the same thing, and so I'm interested in working with that, and I really like, you know, seeing how that can be expanded beyond just the two-dimensional surface, and how we can express the multi-dimension of nature beyond just, you know, representing it as a painting, but more delving into the energy that's in nature and that it creates.
Do you feel like you're attempting to capture the sublime beauty or the sublime terror in your works? I mean, there's so much energy and color and the grand scale of your work. With this and another work that you submitted, Odysseus Returning with Treasure, for the open call, I feel like both of them have that pull of greatness and that overwhelming beauty or potentially terror.
Well, thank you. Yes, no, I like that. I like that people can connect with that, and that is what I connect with. You know, I'm really not looking at, as I said, I'm really interested in the energies that are behind and beyond the representation of beauty or the consciousness of beyond the just beauty or terror to what is actually creating that. I mean, it's not so much representing it that I'm interested in, but as creating it within myself, that experience of beauty. I mean, we live in a place where, good Lord, we're just surrounded by it and embraced by it. And the terror of nature. I mean, you know, right now I'm dealing with some huge health issues, which you know, are terrifying. But they also have this incredible energy that adds to my creative process. I mean, you know, it all adds up to a creative process that's much more whole than just looking at beauty or terror by itself. It's a wholeness that is really explained a lot by physics, by quantum physics, and the thinking that there are many different influences happening at the same time. You know, at the same time, and that is really out there in the cosmos too. So how do you represent the cosmos on a two-dimensional surface? You know, it's almost an impossible task. It is an impossible task, but we can try and we can aim that way. And the way to do that is to try to embody that energy and then see what bounces out of that embodiment.
What a beautiful answer. And that really rolls into my next question, which was whether or not you were attempting to address this sort of micro-macro relationship, because in your work, it's very easy to find these microscopic cellular organisms, but also find this depiction of universes, of entire world systems. You know, I certainly start to connect this part of the whole of the part, which you just said. So the fact that you're thinking on that wavelength, I think, is very much felt when you start to look at your work.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. And thank you for recognizing it. It is definitely, yeah, you don't have to, you can look at a microbe and you can see the whole universe in it, you know. It's, yeah, it's an amazing, amazing thing, really. And I think our understanding of that is growing, keeps growing, you know. As human beings, we are now accepting things that as reality that we would never, that we thought was totally strange. I mean, you know, you wouldn't think that, you know, a fish had a mind, you know, I mean, that wasn't part of the consciousness. Now that is very much a part of the consciousness, you know. And so the multi-layered nature of all of the different worlds, the different experiences, the different sensations, everything really. They're all happening at the same time. There isn't a separation. We're not separated from the fish. You know, we're all part of the same thing. And the more we recognize that, and the more we embrace that we are just a part of the whole. Just because we are human beings, we're not superior by any means, you know. So it's really an amazing time to be alive, really, to have this awareness that goes beyond the two-dimensional awareness that was there for so long.
Absolutely.
And my aim is, you know, to put that into my work, you know, to really move that through and into my work.
I think you're quite successful at that, which is no easy feat, to your credit. So I'm going to ask you a question I've asked all the other artists so far. This exhibition was limited to artists who are either from Taos or have deep roots in Taos. Can you tell us about your personal relationship with Taos?
Yes, oh, definitely. Oh my goodness. I first came through Taos when I first arrived in America. And it was actually 1965 when I first came to Taos, and I was hitchhiking around the country. And I ended up hitchhiking through this area. Well, I was fascinated by it. I was always interested in it. But it wasn't really until 1969 when I got a job teaching art in San Luis, Colorado, that I became really connected with Taos. And was, you know, I lived here for a number of years. I did a bunch of work, and I eventually ended up in Taos and never left. I mean, I realized at one point I kept on coming and then having to leave in order to make a living and coming back. And then finally I just said, forget it. I'm just moving here, and whatever happens, we'll figure it out. And indeed, it's been, Taos has given me tremendous amount throughout my life. I mean, it's allowed me to be able to make a living here, doing what I love to do. And yeah, it's a very expansive place to be.
It sounds like you've always been an adventurer, which is wonderful. So thank you so much for joining us, Brian, and thank you all on Facebook Live for watching. Please stay tuned to our Facebook page. Our next interview will take place on October 28th with Paul O'Connor. So we'll see you then.
Okay, thank you so much. Go. Bye.